All right. Okay, you guys. So I'm trying to get into this package because I am stoked. Elizabeth is being my cameraman, but I'm also going to let Elizabeth talk to you guys in just a second because she is currently out of like thousands of people. Elizabeth is what? Elizabeth, like
I'm number one right now.
you're number one?
Yeah.
Elizabeth is number one in the voting for Inc. magazine, to be on the cover of Inc. magazine and to win money. So we really need for all of you guys to support her. This would be life-changing for Elizabeth. How much money is it?
$25,000.
So you could send your car back to your dad, go get the kind of car you want. I mean, this is life-changing money for Elizabeth. So we really want to support her. We're going to post the link on my page. What we want for you guys to do is just vote for Elizabeth so that she can go there and be on the cover of Inc. magazine. If you guys don't know, Elizabeth has beautiful tattoos. She has a crown. What do you have right here?
Owl.
An owl?
Yep, I'm pretty much covered from head to toe, but if y'all go vote for me,
Covered from head to toe. You
boss.
just have very tasteful tattoos.
boss, I'm covered from...
Very tasteful ink. Hers is actually for, some of it's prison art, and I will tell you that for those of you, I get a lot of messages that feel like it's disrespectful. Like I put on a TikTok the other day about how we saved the good boys for Jess, but Elizabeth's been to prison. She's on her own. And some of you guys, I understand that you might have kids in prison or something like that, and you feel like it's a disrespect. But Elizabeth will tell you, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that find motivation. And what we hope is that by people knowing that, they find some motivation in her story and know that, like, it doesn't matter where you've been. What matters is tomorrow.
For
so
sure.
I really appreciate the love that you guys show Elizabeth and the concern. But just FYI, Elizabeth is very okay with me sharing that. And it's almost something that maybe we do overshare because we've attracted an audience that has nothing to do with horses. They just want to see Elizabeth. They want to hear her name. Like, Elizabeth has her own fan club, and it's really neat. Like, it is so cool. But back to this. Here, Britton.
Really trying to help you.
I know.
It's okay, Britton.
Okay, you guys. So this order is amazing. This was sent to us from No Hit Bits. This is Lauren and her husband. They make these.
Start party.
I'm telling you. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so these, do you love these? Look at them. How badass are these? Okay, so there's lots and lots of companies that make these rope gags with the some of them do pick and string, some of them do rope. But if you've ever had a colt that gets hot and they rub these off, No Hit Bit has added a brow band and a throat latch to these, and it's amazing. So this is just a two-piece. This is actually a draw bit, but you can adjust how much draw you have on your rope with these pieces. And it's a locked gag. I love this one. Oh my God, I love this one. Okay, so this one is a chain for a horse that's really, really stiff that you're trying to supple up and get a lot of bend in. This is a chain with the rollers in the center. Oh God, I love that. I am like in heaven. Okay. Oh, okay, now I requested this one. Okay, so this one is not a draw. This one is actually a locked, I mean, it's still a draw bit, but it's a locked mouthpiece. This bit right here is something that I like. I get a lot of horses from sale barns that cowboys have had. And it's very hard to understand that cowboys want to cowboy a horse. And that makes no sense to most people until you've rode behind a cowboy. They want to get the corners of their mouth a little bit raw to get them soft. But the problem is later on in life, when those sores heal, they've got a little scar tissue. So it almost makes the horse less sensitive for the next person. So while that horse is soft and supple for that cowboy, I call them yahoos. We see them at every sale barn. They're riding horses in the ring. They're spurring them around, making them, what's wrong? I can fix it.
Nothing.
You need to touch it?
No.
Okay. I just do this a lot. So when you were like moving, I was like, is it?
I'm just getting your angles.
Okay. So this bit right here is one I really love because it has a little port, which a port always encourages a horse to stay just a little bit behind the bit. A lot of people don't realize that a horse carries a port like this. And what happens is when the horse carries the port like this, If a horse puts its nose up in the air, a port tips forward and just reminds that horse, hey, and they'll get back behind the vertical and this bit will shift back. A lot of people think a port, there are tongue relief bits and things like that that encourage a horse to keep their tongue like under the bit and things like that. I've heard a lot of excuses for a port, but the true meaning for a port is to encourage a horse to stay broke at the pole and stay just a little bit behind the bit. And I like this because if you have a horse that gets behind the bit but then over breaks at the pole and kind of hides from you behind the vertical, this is a bit that they'll trust to get back. It's broke right here, so it has a lot of movement, so it's not aggressive, but I can soften a hard-mouthed horse up with this with the lightest hands in the entire world, and it never leaves sore marks. And what I really love about it is it just encourages a horse to lope around really collected. This is a bit that I can put on a horse that kind of wants to drop a shoulder, and these cheek pieces right here being solid kind of will remind you more of, in the English world, you guys have what you call like a full cheek snaffle. You can put the little keepers, and it'll kind of keep those horses up in the bridle and keep those shoulders elevated. So this is a great bit on a horse that when you're loping circles, they either want to lope a square to stay upright, but anytime you try to really break them in the rib cage and make them soft, they start to dump to the inside and dump that shoulder. This is a bridle that you can really hold the shoulder up, get them very soft, get them slightly broke at the pole, and it doesn't take a lot of work. You're not having to be very aggressive with your hands. What I hate to see are people that use less bridle, that's not an appropriate bridle, and then you see them having to overwork their hands, and horses become very dull to your signals. I'm very adamant on using soft hands, and something like this that's a tool, it's temporary, it's not permanent, and to teach a horse to do things correctly. I see lots and lots and lots of people that want to go for less bridle and then do so much with your hands, and I know that that's hard to understand for some people, but if somebody has nothing on you and they're constantly doing this, you become dull to it. You just become, I would rather just say, hey, one time they pick up and you go on about your business, and that way a horse is constantly looking for that signal. That horse is constantly, trying to stay one step ahead of you. I like that. I like a horse that's eager to get that shoulder up and to really get that hip on the inside underneath them and stay very rounded in the ribs. And I find that, especially in the English world, people want to go to bigger mouthpieces, big as my thumb or bigger, and then you see those girls just constantly having to work their hands, constantly having to work those colts in the face, and they just get dull to that.
Somebody wants to see a bit and headstall for English riding.
Okay, so there's a lot of options there. When I worked for Hartman, he used to import warm bloods, and this is the first time I was introduced to these. A lot of English, especially advanced trainers, will go to like an elevator bit. You guys in the English world are aware of that. You know what that is. The problem is when you get a horse in an elevator bit, there's a lot of riders that don't have good enough hands for that. And we actually would use some draw type gags to correct those horses. So there's a lot of bits in the Western world that you can take back to the English community just for schooling purposes. You don't have to show in them, but you can get those horses soft and supple at home in a Western type bridle, and then go back to your English bits once you get them soft and supple. So those are amazing. This entire bridle, I believe, costs $225. That's for everything. And these are custom made. You can measure your horse's mouth and have the mouthpiece. They have lots of colors: purple, turquoise. I think they have pink, black. These are pretty.
It's badass.
Do I grab these now? These are the reins I used for the photo shoot for like a minute, and the mare spooked and stepped on the ends, just cosmetic. Yes, we will put these to good use. There you go.
Right?
Yes. Okay, so they make phenomenal reins. Phenomenal. They are, you will easily spend $100 on these reins with any other company. They have the poppers on the end. You want to film them? I believe. Yes! Charlie's dead. Okay, you guys, so these are only $45. That's a steal. How much do you pay for yours? No hip bit. When you order a bit from them, make sure you go ahead and order a curb chain, a head stall, and reins. Because when you order everything from them, these are the 3/4 inch. Where did the plastic go? Right there.
This.
Yeah. Oh no, these are the 5/8. Okay, those are the 5/8. These are the 3/4. These are the 3/4. Yes. I love these too. So these are for somebody that wants a little heavier rein. You like something a little thicker. Maybe you don't like poppers on the end. These, like my dad, my sister love these. They don't love the weighted ends. I do. They don't. But they both ride with their split reins off to one side because they pony racehorses. So they both get their split reins and like put them off to one side. Where I leave mine on each side. So these are the 3/4 inch. They are weighted. They have a great weight. Heavy oil. I have hiccups. I feel like Mary Poppins. Okay. Oh, okay. So for you English ladies, this is all you right here. Now, I love this bit. Now, again, ports seem very scary to a lot of people. This is a bit, this right here,
Let's go over this way, boss. That light's coming in and it's weird.
this is a 7-inch ball bearing locked lifter. It's got a 5 1/16 smooth and the high port. Now, I would ride a horse like this right here. He is an older, he's 18 this year. He's here because somebody allowed him to get in really bad condition. We had a lot of trouble putting weight on him. We found out he had bloodworms. So we've got him up treating him for bloodworms. It's been very hard to figure out what was going on. Sometimes horses lose weight due to neglect. Sometimes horses lose weight because there really is an underlying condition. So Britain was for sale. I took him offline. People asked why. Well, we couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, why he was gaining weight. We did a bunch of tests, found out he had bloodworms. Now, we ride a horse like him in this because he's very, very soft. But he also can be a little strong. And if you guys have ever had a horse that when you're schooling them, you feel like they're the softest horse in the world in the face, so you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot in the corners or across the bars of their mouth because those horses kind of want to elevate and they really don't want you to get a hold of them. I love these bits. This is a super soft mouthpiece. It's got ball bearings so it can't pitch. You have a little lifter shank. But these ports right here encourage those horses to stay just enough behind the bit that you have control. Again, these ports encourage a horse because every time a horse flips their head, that port flips. So when a horse flips their head, that port flips. So it's like a little bit of a reminder to, hey, get back behind my hands, get back behind my hands. That port lays flat on the tongue. The horse never even knows the port is there unless the horse flips its head. And I find that a lot of young riders do good in these bits if you can have them be quiet with their hands because it allows that horse to relax behind that port. It's basically like the old Vanquero way. Like if you go back and you look at the way they trained with those big spade bits, the whole reason they use those big ports is to stay just behind the bit. Not to be, what you don't want to have to use is your hands a lot. Something like this will encourage a very strong horse that panics. I've had some, and we've all had them. They're like the strongest horse in the barn, but they're so light that when you try to correct them, this is their option. These little shanks right here are wonderful for those horses because you have a little purchase, you have a little shank, you can do a multitude of different curb chains. I think that an older horse that you're schooling at home, especially over fences, they can benefit from something like this. And I worked for a German who would import horses and fix little problems on problem horses, and we used more Western bits than we ever used English bits in his barn. I'm not done. Oh, I think this is a squirt. This is a squirt with a broken. Okay. It's okay. What's wrong? This is a squirt. Now, this bit right here would be great for an English person. Now then, this bit is, it has the broken port, which means it has the tongue relief to encourage a horse to stay behind, but it's broken. So, I like this mouthpiece. I feel like this mouthpiece is great for a horse that is maybe even a little stronger than this. You need a little bit more. This bit right here still has that effect on a horse that does need a two-piece. You still have some tongue relief. It encourages horses to kind of get back behind that bit. And of course, the squirt is nice for a horse that doesn't like any curb action, because the only time the curb chain engages is when you put both hands on the rein. So the squirt shank is my very favorite bit of all bits. And I think that's what I have here. I'm stoked. I am super stoked. So I'm a big fan of this. I love this mouthpiece. Again, it's one that I feel like when you put it in the horse's mouth, like this, they have some tongue relief. I hope you guys can kind of see that. And then as you work your hands, you know, whenever you kind of work this, see how it tips that right there? It just encourages that horse to be soft. And as soon as you let go of that rein, it goes back. So what this does is it encourages the horse to be really soft and to look for the signals with your hand. This shank to me is $1 million shank. I can't tell you how many horses we get in here that are a little bit problematic with their mouth. And the moment we go to a squirt shank, it eliminates all of our problems. So we're gonna try this bit on a couple of horses throughout the week and let you guys know. I know for me, what I would ride it on, I can kind of think of a couple off the top of my head, but we're gonna see how horses that are a little soft respond to this too. But these are bits that people would think are really harsh, and they're not. This right here never engages. It never flips in the top of their mouth. And as you can see, Elizabeth, put your hands so you know from somebody. Even right here, there's nothing about that.
Yeah.
What it does is it just lays on the tongue like this, so that it encourages the horse to not flip its head. Because when a horse flips its head, then this port moves, and it just reminds that horse to just soften up and get back behind the bridle. And that's all a port is for. A port, people look at ports and think they're very aggressive, and they're actually not, because they're just a little bit of a reminder before you ever have to touch the reins. You don't, and that's what I want to do, is I want to remind them before I ever even have, I don't want to have to stay in your mouth and stay on the reins. I want to be able to give you a little bit more rein and let you do your job. And I feel like, especially with the dressage horses that we used to import, some of them had been bitted back so bad that they would get behind the vertical and just really get almost strung down into the bridle, and it almost felt like they were hiding from you. And what we could do is put something very soft so they got some confidence back with a little port, and let those horses get a little bit more forward. Because I used to see, and I used to hear him complain a lot about how dressage has modernized more and more, and the horses are getting more and more behind the vertical, and they're almost getting to where it's very hard to get them to stay flat in the back and to stay solid in the rib cage, because they're no longer rounding out. Now they're almost humpbacked, you know, trying to get so far behind the vertical. And what Hartmut used to really work on is to allow those horses to get their nose a little bit forward just on the vertical instead of behind it, and to just be just rounded enough in the back that they could have some impulsion.
What is that bit called? Not the squirt one, the other one.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a custom made bit, and it is just a ball bearing port bit. You can, we'll put pictures of these, but you can call No Hit Bit, take a screenshot, tell Lauren this is what you want, and she can get it on the way to you.
Cool.
It's a very light bit, like it's very, very lightweight. You can do a drop down nose piece with it, which is something that a lot of people didn't know. You can do a figure 8 with it, and it still just encourages, and you can see that the bit is shaped perfect, how it just, that port lays just back on the tongue.
Yeah.
So it stays completely out of the way, and unless you engage that rein, that port will lay on that tongue. It's not in the roof of their mouth. If you engage both reins like this, it's just a very slight elevation, but if you get in a bind and you elevate both, that port will get just enough forward to remind that horse, hey, get off my hands. This is perfect for a very, very strong horse that almost wants to be super light. Like, we've all rode them. They'll pull and pull and pull, and then we finally get onto them for pulling, and they just, and you're like, God, you know, you've been pulling on me for the last 30 minutes, and I finally, you know, went to kind of get you back in my hands, and we've all owned one. Right here. Right here. This is all you need. So, I love you guys. I hope you learned a little bit today. And again, I tell people all the time, I don't train in the bit that I run barrels in. What I train in at home is something that to kind of get their attention. And if I've done my job at home, when I go fast away from home, I should kind of be able to throw that horse their head and stay in the middle of them. So sometimes at home, you're going to use bridles that you think, man, I can't compete in that. You want to be able to train at home and remind them to stay soft and keep them soft so that when you go to the show, they're soft and prepared to do their job. And as long as they're sound, happy, not having stomach issues, you floated their teeth, you should be able to transition out of this bit back to us. And I would switch out. I would do this a couple of rides and then go back to a D-bit, you know, to where you don't have a lot of leverage, where it's kind of more pound for pound snaffle pressure, and kind of change that out and remind that horse to stay soft, to stay supple. And if they get strong on you, you can always go back to this. Most horses don't intentionally try to cheat you or be shitty. They do it either because you're allowing it and they're just getting away with it so they think it's okay, or they're doing it because there's something wrong and you need to go to your vet. So if you can't correct them a couple of rides with this and go back to a soft bridle, you have more than a bit problem. So, bye, you guys.